What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we're going to be talking about some running lessons. And I did come across an article in Outside Online, their run section, and the article's by Alex Kurt. And the article is titled, "Everything I Needed to Know About Running I Learned from My Cross-Country Coach." And this is actually pretty good. Now, I do have to say that this isn't something that every one of us is going to follow. There's probably going to be a lot of changes that we make, as we get older. Maybe we have other responsibilities that we have to attend to, like work, like family. But all in all, I think this is going to be a good conversation starter for you and me. Okay, let's get into it. Oh, and I should just say, if you wanted to read this whole article, I will place a link in the show notes below, and then you can go check it out for yourself. But we're going to be going through each of the 8 things that may benefit you if you're trying to be the best runner you can be, or at least just trying to be a runner. I suppose we don't always have to try and be our best. But anyway, that first tip is, if there's a magic workout, it's that damn morning run. Okay, and here's the thing, and it doesn't exactly mean what you probably think it means. At least it doesn't mean what I thought it meant. But ultimately, for Alex and the cross-country team he was training with back in college, they would do their workouts in the afternoon. So by saying that the magic workout is the morning run, is actually referring to doing that little bit extra. Like going out and running that first run, knowing that you are going to be running a double that day, because the workout's in the afternoon. But also, if you're going out first thing in the morning, it could be dark, it could be cold. In my case, it's dark and it's very warm, not a pleasant kind of warm either. But the magic in that morning run is that you're going out when no one sees you. You're putting the work in when you probably don't always feel like it. Exactly. In my case, I know that I am really not going to feel like it later on. So for me, running in the morning is by necessity and also the lesser of two evils. But even though a lot of us, we do choose to run on our own, the fact that you're getting up and going out there counts for something. Although really, I think the meaning behind this tip is that we probably should be doing more. And that trend is going to continue as we go through the other tips. The second tip to remember in your running journey is that if you want a beautiful peak, you have to find a big mountain. And I really like this one. And this certainly follows along from tip number 1. And the article points out that when you do well, or sometimes even if you don't do well, people often ask you how you train. And they ask that because people are always looking for that magic workout, like that magic pill that's just going to make everything better. But the key thing that comes before any magic workout is running a lot, is building a base, building a wide base and making a big mountain. And Alex's coach also points out that if you do that, if you build a big base, you can pretty much pick your workouts out of a hat, and you will still beat the person who has a poor base. So the very astute of you are going to see there is a trend here, and that trend is running a lot. The article also points out that if you want a shortcut, maybe try another sport. I really like that. Also, running a lot is different for everyone, so don't think you have to run a lot compared with a pro athlete. It's running a lot for you. And moreover, you can't just go out and run a lot. If you want to get up to 50 miles a week, you can't just go out and run 50 miles a week. I mean, you could, but it'll come back and bite you. You have to slowly build up to that. So before you build up to 50, you have to build up to 40, and before that 30, and before that 20. So take your time, build that base, and you will get a beautiful peak. Okay, number 3, continuing with the trend, the little things are just that. So Alex points out that when he was back in college, the whole social media thing bombarding us with these very niche training practices wasn't really a thing. Cold plunges, double thresholds, functional core workouts, the list could go on. And it is important to point out that all of that stuff, it could help, but only as the cherry on top. The most important thing, according to Alex's cross-country coach, is running a lot, and running a lot consistently, stacking weeks on top of months, on top of years. That's the big thing. That's the big thing that we need to focus on. Those other things, they're just little, and we have to treat them as such. Now, it is important to recognize that Alex's coach wasn't discounting those ancillary things that make us a better runner. The point is to prioritize them. And he refers to younger athletes kind of losing focus if they start to look at all the extracurriculars that go around running, when really they should be focusing on running. Now, our focus does change as we get older. We can't keep just pounding out the miles without doing a few other things to keep us healthy and strong and flexible, like foam rolling perhaps. Although if you are a long-time viewer of this channel, you know that I've firmly given up on that. Anyway, the article does say that you can focus on strength training or cross training, just not at the expense of running, eating, and sleeping. Okay, got it? Moving on. The next tip is to know your body and train accordingly. And I guess this refers to one athlete. Let's say we've got Strava. So you may be very aware of some of your Strava friends putting in 100 miles a week, right? And they can do that without getting injured. But then you have another Strava friend who gets injured if they run 50 miles a week. And you could insert any number there. The point is to build your volume up over several years, kind of find where your limit is and then respect it. For me, over the years that I've found 80 miles is a very top end of where I can train. And even if I do more than a couple of weeks at 80 miles an hour, those aches and pains start to overpower me. Generally, in my peak training now, I will keep it in the low 70s. Now, that's volume. What about workouts? The article points out that running a specific number of reps in an interval workout, or running those reps at a certain pace, just because another runner did it, is a recipe for disaster. It could be doing more harm than good. So keep that in mind next time you go out and you're focusing on an arbitrary number for the speed of your intervals. It's important to go by feel, and there's a lot of other variables that come into it. Maybe it's the weather, maybe you didn't get a lot of sleep, or maybe you're just training too fast. Know yourself and train accordingly. The 5th tip is to realize that you can't have it all the time. And basically, this is talking about our whole training cycle and how there are ebbs and flows. There are valleys and peaks. And ultimately, when we are training for an event, we need to start in the trough. And then as we train, we come up to the top. We build that fitness slowly over time. It is absolutely impossible to maintain your peak possible fitness at all times. And this gets a little more tricky when we think about social media and we see running influencers doing back-to-back races. And that's fine if they are resilient enough to stand up for that kind of output. But you better believe those athletes that are doing that are not running to their potential on every single event. Maybe they are for one, or could be none. I guess we have to realize what our goal is. And if your goal is to just go out and put volume and run back-to-back races as well as you can, that's totally fine. Just know that you're not going to be doing your very best. And as far as the build-up to an event, you've heard me talk about it before, and it's also mentioned in this article about Mario Frioli's approach to B+ workouts and how he is an advocate for those B+ workouts. So you're not going out and giving your best effort on a workout. B+ rather than A+, because you're saving your A+ game for race day. And the thinking behind that is if you go out and you run an A+ workout and you're really trash, you could be taking additional training time off in order to recover from that max effort. He wants us to remember that workout days are in the service of race days. So we don't want to be digging too deep in a workout. And the best analogy in this whole article is that you don't want to pull your carrots out of the ground just to see how they're growing. I love that. Number 6 is to recover before you're forced to. And the article does point out that this is more geared towards younger runners like 18, 19, 20, collegiate runners, because those guys are feeling good all the time. And if they are feeling good, they're probably going to go out for one more run. Point is to know your limits. And often we find those limits the hard way. But just because you've had 2 or 3 good days doesn't mean you have to go out and have a 4th good day. Maybe pull back just a little bit. And if you're proactive about it, you'll never be forced to take time off. And the coach in the article does point out that he doesn't assign a pace to arbitrary runs, so non-workout runs. He tells his athletes to just run at the pace that your body wants to run at. And of course, this does become more difficult when we're wearing a GPS, because we can certainly have these biases that make us think that we need to be running at a certain pace, when in fact that's not the case at all. Run easy and make sure that it's really easy, not your brain telling your body what you want to be easy. The 7th tip is that you have given yourself a chance, now give yourself a chance. Okay, and that might be a little confusing, but what it's referring to is that you have already put in the work for a particular event. So if you are training, you've been building up, you've been getting up early, putting in your runs, you've been putting in the harder runs, the intervals, the tempo runs. Really, you've been stacking those bricks towards a certain goal. So that's you giving yourself a chance to perform your best. So now that you've given yourself a chance, give yourself a chance to let that training soak in. Don't think just because you're getting close to race day that you need to do one more workout. You don't. You need to recover. This becomes very difficult when we enter the taper, because generally we don't always feel our best during the taper. That taper brain starts telling us things about little aches and pains, phantom aches and pains. And it will also probably tell you that, Matt, you haven't done enough. You need to do one more hard effort. And that will set you up nicely for race day. And that is not true. That is your brain playing tricks, pulling a sneak attack. And it wants you to go out and sabotage yourself, but you have to be stronger. You have to give yourself a chance because you've given yourself a chance. Embrace that taper, go into your race strong. Number 8, it's not rocket science, it's running. Look, when it comes down to it, running really isn't that complicated. The way to get good at running is to run a lot consistently for a long time. Try to minimize those interruptions because of illness or injury. And the article has another good quote, and that is that training is pretty simple. Run a lot, add some faster running, perform one's best in races, enjoy a recovery period, and then repeat. That's it. Now, if you've been running for a while, this is probably an approach that you embrace, because the article does point out that it's usually newer runners that want to get really in the weeds with their running. They try and make it more complicated than it really needs to be. So now I want to hear from you. Which of those rules do you follow? Which do you not follow? And because I know we're all different ages on the channel, how have you adapted those rules to your life as you get older? Drop a comment and let me know. And because I was just talking about getting older, I want you to drop the hourglass emoji in the comments if you've made it to this point in the video. But not just any hourglass. There are 2. I want you to add the hourglass that has the majority of the sand still on top, because we've all got a lot of time left. And with that, it's Matt B. These have been 8 tips, hopefully telling you everything you need to know about running. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.